Hey, it's Joe, and welcome back to Humanfluence. This is all about overcoming religious guilt. They told you were broken, that you were born in sin, that without obedience, without submission, without them, you'd be lost. And for so long you believed it. The guilt, the shame, it seeped into your bones, shaping the way you saw yourself, the way you moved through the world. Every thought, every desire, every question you had, weighed down by the fear that you were somehow wrong. But what if I told you that guilt, that shame, it was never yours to carry in the first place? Religious guilt isn't about truth, it's about control. It's about keeping you small, keeping you afraid. Afraid to think for yourself, afraid to step outside the boundaries they drew for you. Afraid to even question whether those boundaries were even real. Because here's the thing, if you weren't afraid, if you weren't buried under guilt, if you actually knew your own power, you wouldn't need them. And that is what they fear the most. So they fed you the lie that questioning is rebellion, that doubt is sin, that your own mind, your own intuition is somehow the enemy. Why? Because a mind that questions is a mind they can't control. They told you that suffering is noble, that denying yourself is holy, that obedience equals righteousness. But let's be honest, who does that serve? You were given desires, emotions, thoughts for a reason. You were given the ability to reason, to feel, to experience, not so you could suppress yourself into submission, but so you could live. And yet they convinced you that to be whole, you had to be less, that your natural instincts were wrong, that seeking knowledge was dangerous, that freedom was selfish. They created a system where your pain equals their power, where your guilt keeps their influence alive, where the fear of damnation keeps you locked in a prison with no walls. And worst of all, they've convinced you to police yourself, to carry the chains even when no one is watching, to fear your own thoughts, to see your own freedom as a trap. But here's what they'll never tell you. You were never broken. You were never separate from divinity. You were never meant to live in fear. The real sin, the real deception, it's in convincing you that you need a middleman to reach what was already inside you all along. Your connection to the divine was never something that could be given to you or taken away. It was yours before you even had a name. And that's why they had to twist the truth. That's why they had to make you doubt yourself. Because a soul that knows its own power is untouchable. So how do we break free? Questioning everything, as always. Not with fear, not with shame, but with clarity, with courage, with the understanding that truth doesn't fear investigation. Ask yourself, who benefits from my guilt? Who profits from my fear? Who gains power by making me feel unworthy? Then ask yourself something even more important. Who would I be without this guilt? What would my life look like if I truly believed that I was already whole? Because that's the key. The guilt only has power if you keep feeding it. The fear only controls you if you keep running from it. But the second you stop, the second you turn around and face it, you realize it was never real to begin with. And once you see that, you are free. So now the choice is yours. Do you keep carrying the weight they placed on your shoulders? Do you keep living in a reality designed to keep you small? Or do you finally let it go because the truth is simple? There is no outside force holding you in chains anymore. Only the belief that they still exist. And once you let that belief go, you don't just escape the cage. You realize there was never a cage to begin with. Humanfluence, out.